This is a brand new Android Samsung S24 dick sucker, whatever. It comes with an automated blowjob device, everything. I don't know how to operate an Apple. I can't operate between my text messages, my video game, my Robinhood, and my AOL account.
Are you fucking serious?
You gotta have AOL, bro.
Cool. Kick us off, man. We won't do anything super formal or anything, Tommy, but I appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate being here. I mean, to be in the house of Thrive.
Yeah, man.
So
I know it's been a little while in the making. I know we keep going back and forth on social media. I see your shit, you see mine.
Right.
I met you at that property. I don't know if you recall. Way back, probably what, 6, 7?
No, more than that.
A year ago?
About a year ago now.
So. We went out and looked at I think a fire damage. I think it was that one. I shot some stuff over there.
It was and it wasn't it in it was I think it was Sun City West or Surprise or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Surprise.
Right.
Yeah. So we looked at that one. We ended up I think we wholesaled that one.
Right.
And, man, and ever since then, we've kind of kept up. I think you're on our dispo list. I know I've sent you a few other deals.
Yeah. Did you know, though, that's not the first time we met?
Yes. I know we originally met at my event in Tempe.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a networking event that you had hosted.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of coming to that, and you had a buttload of guys that showed up. And
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was awesome. That was actually our first. You came to our first networking event we did at the Porch. And, we had a great turnout. And I think you're a part of the Arizona Real Estate Investor Forum as well.
Right. Azria?
No, that's a separate group.
Right.
I own the Arizona Real Estate Investor Forum.
Oh, on Facebook?
The Facebook group.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm on that one as well.
I think that's where we originally promoted that event and got quite a good turnout. So if you guys are watching out there, make sure you guys join that group because there's a lot of really good connects in there.
How many people do you have in that group now? It's over 1,000, right?
We have 12,000.
Yeah, I thought it was way up there.
Yeah, 12,000, almost 13,000 members now in the group. So it's been growing like crazy. I mean, guys are getting in. People are collaborating. I mean, it's really about building community.
Right.
And I think we had originally spoken. I remember, was it your business partner there? The woman that was with you, I forgot her name.
Oh, Tammy, yes.
Tammy, yeah, Tammy was there. And I think we're all talking about how the Arizona real estate community is a fairly small group of folks. Like, we all go out, we have dinner, we have drinks, but there's enough deals to go around. So it's like, there's no competition in that group, and I love the group. I mean, I've met so many good people there.
Well, as far as competition goes, like, I think competition can be healthy. Like, this is why we get together on Facebook a lot or on social media, period, is because I'll see what you're saying and then I call it the Thomas Jefferson you or Hamilton you, depends on how you look at it. But I'll always take the opposite point of view that you have because that gives the audience that we're like bantering in front of two different ways of looking at the same problem.
I love it. And I think we need more of that, Tommy. I think social media tends to be echo chambers, right? If you have a lot of people echoing that same sentiment, that same thing, and it's good to have both opposing views. So why don't we start there? Why don't we talk today about, I know I've looked at a couple of your things out there, and I know you've looked at some of mine. Is there anything that comes to mind that we disagree on right off the bat?
I think right off the bat, let's pick something that we have definitely discussed: the earnest deposit amount, like earnest money.
Yeah.
Right. So recently, I had the luxury of having to sell a property out of state, and I have to come with humble hat in hand and tell you that the only serious offer was the one that paid the $5,000 instead of the $1,000.
Sure.
And so I guess I call myself a dirt dog. You know most of my content. I'm what they call a land fix and flipper. But when you send me stuff, I'm looking at it from the aspect of this has to be a grand slam, gold nugget, everything, or I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like my bread and butter is in that dirt. And if I'm not doing dirt, then I can't do anything. So when I get that extra money, when I get that extra build up and I get that kitty, I call it, to go and play in your world over in wholesale land or fix and flip, it has to be something worth the time. And that's why I only really look at the burnouts.
Yeah.
My issue would be that tying up $5,000 for that time period of figuring out, am I going to actually have to go through any, and it's due diligence. It's not a changing time period. Like so many people think due diligence is the gut check period. Ooh, do I really want to do this deal? No, that's not what due diligence is for. Due diligence is to find out, do I have to pull permits? Do I have any outstanding liens? Is there mechanics lien against this property that you, me, and nobody's going to know until the day of closing? So
let me stop you right there, because that's where maybe there's some things that we could clarify. So really what happens a lot of times is the title company is going to pull a prelim, right? Mm-hmm. Preliminary title report. So I'm confident in the underlying contract of a deal that we ever sell you is in the contract. It states clearly that all liens, all monetary liens, any code violations, anything like that, we're going to be paid off. And typically we have really clearly in there that the seller's going to pay them, unless we otherwise, if we're negotiating and we have to throw that in and cover it, we'll pull the prelim prior to even putting in that contract and really ensure, hey, we know what we're getting ourselves into. But 9 times out of 10, the seller is going to be responsible for covering all that. And then just to speak on the due diligence side, I totally see what you're saying, because I've had a lot of people like, man, I need a due diligence period. I need to go see if, permits are going to need to be pulled, or, what exactly I'm going to need in order to take this one down. And I think really the big difference, I would say, is typically we're doing stuff where in order to purchase it, we're competing a lot. And I don't know how often you go direct to seller, where you're basically cutting out the wholesaler. But usually when you're going direct to seller, you're competing against, 10, 15 other investors. And a lot of times we're having to waive that due diligence period in order to get the deal. So a lot of times we don't have a due diligence period, and therefore it's hard for us to give someone else a due diligence period if we don't even have one.
True.
So that's really where that whole thing comes in. And then really when we send out a deal, unfortunately, I've had to go to court. I've had to do shit, exactly to the point that you're making regarding the inspection due diligence period, is that I've had guys, tie us up, say, hey, I'm going to buy it. And then they start their due diligence process. They know there's no due diligence period, right? They end up doing their due diligence. I had a guy this is a Tucson deal actually, and I think I'd posted on it. I'm not sure if you saw it. He pulled up in a Lamborghini. He was calling me broke and all sorts of shit. He was trying to buy a property I had in Tucson. He was going to build a brand new home on it. He agreed to purchase it, signed our agreements, everything was good. And then he tried to come back and say there was no water to the property, that the property had no water, so therefore he was going to back out. And the title company ended up refunding his earnest money to him, and we took him to court, and we won in court because it was really clear in that contract that, hey, that due diligence should have been done prior to you signing the document. So really, I guess the main moral of that is, I think I'm a big believer in the due diligence should be done prior. So if, let's say we send you a deal and you're like, yeah, I like it, right? Let's get the city involved. Let's do everything you need to do prior to inking all the documents. So that way, once we know, hey, we signed it, we know we're good to go. There's no retrades or anything. Because a lot of times in the wholesale side, I can tell you firsthand, and I know a lot of guys watching are going to feel or relate to this, is there's a lot of retrading, we call it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'll pay X, and then next thing you know, it's Y.
So let me ask you this question then. Do you ever think that there's a chance that some of the houses you guys list for wholesale are not worth selling?
What do you mean? Like we should buy them?
No, like you shouldn't bother trying to get a deal on it. It's it's either overpriced or because and this is just maybe 30 years of being in this business, time and money are equal. And so when you eliminate your due diligence period to get it under contract because you got 15 other sharks,
yeah,
maybe let some of the sharks choke on their own, on their own fat. Like if it's that muddy of a water, then let them be that muddy.
We do that, yeah.
And because I'll tell you right now, in the sense that where if I had signed a contract with you and it goes to ambiguity, congratulations for winning, but the guy had a shitty lawyer.
No, not at all.
He should have.
No, not at all. The contract's really clear.
No, it's totally clear.
Yeah.
It's 100% clear, but there's a loophole to the situation in the sense that it goes to the Arizona state statute for water rights.
Nope. And that's exactly the point they argued. Right. That was that
No,
was
your
their
contract is, but it's predatory. Like
it's not predatory.
But again,
because it states really clearly.
Are you providing them that disclosure through a seller's? See, this is where wholesalers don't have to follow the rules of a realtor. You don't have to supply a seller's disclosure, which in a seller's disclosure it says water, electric, utilities, etc. You don't have to provide that with your contract.
I am a licensed realtor.
No, I understand that, but you're not having to provide something that brings that property to a market level that makes sense. That's why I turn down 99% of the properties, is because when it comes to me and it says, no due diligence, if you're not providing me with the basics of information that I need to make an educated, financial decision, I'm going to pass on the property. Whereas Ferrari dude who called you broke, karma, bro.
Yeah.
Like karma, don't be a douche.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't want to deal with hassle on that, that's why you and I have done like 2 visits on a property. There's 3 things I follow as my own rules as an investor. I have to visit the property. If you try to sell it to me sight unseen, you better be giving it to me at 15% market.
15%?
15% market.
You'll never see that deal, Tommy.
You want to bet?
Oh my!
I closed 30 of them this year.
I would love to see a 15%.
I've closed 30 of them this year. Do you want to come to my bank?
I would love to come. I would love to see a 15%. Any wholesalers out there that are watching?
15% market.
That's fucking crazy. I need
You're
to
not,
find your deals.
and I'm telling you, but those are burned down, cracked out, toast pieces of property.
15%, man.
It's problem.
Yeah,
I buy dog poop, bro.
I do too.
But then you're marking it up to the level of fucking Bush beer, bro. It is still dog shit when I go walk it with you, man.
I know.
Go back and look at that burnout we walked. They lost money on that deal, man. I'm not in this business for just me to make money, and I know you're not either. But that to me is what I call predatory, because if I'm not having to disclose shit to somebody, and I know shit that they don't, that to me, I call that bad juju.
No, absolutely, and I think that's where a lot of guys in your position. I
have a $550,000 court settlement going on right now, where I'm about to acquire $1.3 million in property because somebody didn't pay me.
So let's set that aside and let's go back to the point that you just made regarding the predatory and the water rights and all of that, because we went in front of a judge and really flushed all this out right to the surface. And the reality of it is what would be predatory and this is just my opinion on what would be a predatory thing to do, is if I was aware of an issue, let's say the property not having water, let's use that one. And I said, hey, Tommy, this does have water, and I misled you to believe that the property had water.
Right.
And then had you sign a contract that I knew you couldn't get out of. Now, these are sophisticated buyers, right? You said yourself before we clicked on the cameras, right? You guys have a $25 million fund. I would consider you an accredited investor, which, is hands down, no problems with a lot of, I'd say 99.9% of people we speak with are sophisticated buyers. They know exactly what they're doing, right?
Right.
He knew exactly. He showed up to court with a fucking Lamborghini, a total D-bag move, in my opinion.
Right.
So, really what the story of that is he's used to bullying people around, and he's used to signing contracts without any consequences, to understanding he read the contract and it says very, very clearly there's no warranties, no guarantees, no promises, no due diligence. And it's not even something that's unique to me. Go talk to a lot of other wholesalers out in the valley, and they'll tell you straight up, yeah, there's no inspection period.
No, and that's completely.
It's not even unique to me.
I completely understand it. Here's the moral of my story. Lamborghini dude, total D-bag, right? Like, he's now giving his money to somebody else. You got his earnest. You kept his earnest money, but he's giving his Lamborghini payments to somebody else. And there's a way to be smarter than that in that process. Okay. And I guess that's why I'm attracted to your content and attracted to your successes here, is because not much long before today, like I was in your shoes before. I had team, I had building, I had everything. Right. And I would do things that later I'd be like, well, shit. I won 1,000, but I passed up 100. right? And I did that because of principle. Like, I'm not going to work. Bro, I don't know if you know it or not, but I'm a registered nurse. Okay. And in college, I literally dropped nutrition class with an A because I was setting the curve with a 63% in the class.
Wow.
I didn't feel good enough as a aspiring nurse to accept a 63% as passing and feel good that I can give people advice as a nurse. So if this was a prerequisite class for my nursing, I wanted to be retaining way more than 63%. It was the shitty instructor I had because, of course, when I got to the next nutrition class, I aced it, hundreds across the board. I maintained my good GPA, but I had to drop the A. It was the first time in that college's history that somebody dropped a class with an A.
Yeah.
Right? And I did that out of principle. Whereas douchebag with a Lamborghini and calling you broke, I get it. And I can tell this in a lot of the videos I watch of you. I watch you way more than you think. You have a lot of emotion. Emotion drives a lot of things. Emotion drives us to get out of bed and go to work. I listen to your speeches, bro. You're very strong in the way you get your team going. But that same emotion can drag you back into a situation where you're like, screw you, bro. I want that 1,000. I want my 5K.
You're 100%.
And then when you do that, now what are you doing? You're literally pissing on the chicken to get the egg. And you're never going to eat that chicken. And God, that egg's going to taste like shit too. Yeah. So just don't do it. Like, figure out how to get around douchebag with a Lamborghini. And instead of being like, oh, bro, okay, do me a favor. And you do the trading thing you were talking about. I'll trade you EDM on this for the next one. If he's accredited, first of all, that is a hard avatar to track down. Okay, when I tell you what my investor avatar looks like, you'll shit yourself. But if you're still getting people that have a accreditation, and can bank, don't let that avatar go. My avatar for my fund that you mentioned earlier is an accredited investor who had capital gains within the last 180 days and is over 150 liquid in that period. That is an investor that's this big.
Yeah.
And in a national market, how easy is that to find? It's next to impossible, but it's possible. You just got to have the right hookups, the right connections. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually using the MLS system through a realtor who I have a relationship with to farm for me every person that sold a house over $1 million in the state of Phoenix or state of Arizona. That person gets my cold email, gets my cold call, gets my cold everything, right? I'm on that dude because I'm farming. And so being a farmer mentality, it's humble. Whereas I think when you get into the world of these guys I don't know if you're censored or not, but big dick energy.
No, yeah.
Like, literally, if we're standing at the stall and you want to see how, like, who can stand further away.
Who's going to fucking stand all hella close?
Who has to be all close and who stands further away, right? Like, I walk in, I'll piss from the door, baby. That's how I roll. Like, I'm big dick, right? So be that. You don't have to let this dude with the Lamborghini roll in and be like, you're broke. Be like, yes, I am, massa. Give me my money.
I did, but I agree with you. And I think you make a lot of good points there, Tom. And I appreciate you pointing that out in me. And one thing you'll learn too is, like, talk about BDE, big dick energy. Like, I feel like I try to embody a lot of that in business. And when it comes to not tripping over pennies to get the dollars, right? And I
see that.
I think the guy that, the one thing that did fucking get to me, honestly, with the guy at the Lambo was that the fact that he was so unwilling to work with me, right?
Right.
And I told him straight up, like, hey, let's split it, bro. Let's just, it was a couple grand. Like, hey, let's just chop it up. Let's split it.
Right.
We'll catch it up on the next one. I feel like I do a fairly decent job at trying to work with people, but you're right. I let my emotions get involved, especially in that particular situation.
Right.
And what ended up happening is I don't like to fucking feel like I got slighted and bullied without being fucking like, we're going to go to war.
I love playing Monopoly as a way of teaching people how to do real estate. And so in the game of Monopoly, if you land on a piece of property and you don't want to buy it, I'd never buy Baltic or Mediterranean. Those are those cheap ones right on the front corner. If I land on that, I won't buy it. But what I have to do by law, by the rule, is auction it to the rest of the people. But did you know I can also buy it if nobody else buys it, I can buy it for what I'm auctioning it at. And it says the suggested price is on the back, what you mortgage it as. So if nobody else wants to buy it, I could literally buy that property, even though I refuse to. I can sell it back to myself in the game. And if you don't know how to do that in the game, or you did it to somebody during the game, you literally have to pull the rules out and be like, see, it's right there. And that's what we do with lawyers and real estate attorneys and all that stuff. I'd like to tell people, I didn't realize I had made it in real estate until I had to hire my first attorney on retainer. Like, because I was getting sued so often. And I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? It wasn't me suing anybody else. I played the victim for a minute. And then I'd rise out of the ashes. It ain't me being a victim. It's me just having rich people problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it is. And I think I'm dealing with it too. I got, people try to, come after us. Once they think you have something of value, something to take, right? A lot of people go on that offense and they try to, unfortunately, it's just the way the world works, right? And now that and I think that's a great point you make, because it's like I never even thought about that. I never even really try to think of if I've made it or not. I think it's arbitrary, but I think it really is a good point to make, though. That is, if you do have an attorney on retainer, it's a whole different ballgame. Like, it's a whole different league you're in versus the guy that just maybe calls them and pays by the hour, or
if the fee is not for defenses, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you need a lawyer's advice and you have to pick up that phone to call one, that's a different level.
Yeah.
Right. And so I look at anything that I do more like a video game, right? Like leveling up, like Zelda. Like, I want to be on level 9,097, right?
Yeah.
9,099.99. I want that 3 levels more to play, right? I'm waiting for him to come up with the next game so that I can have something more to play. And that's really how I ended up starting my own private equity fund. But
tell me about that. Tell me about your private equity fund, because I know we briefly just discussed that, and I obviously own my own private equity side as well. So tell me about how you got into it. Why you got into it.
Tell me what it is exactly, how you are set up as an equity fund. That way I can, because I'm literally a construction worker that backed his dump truck up into an equity fund and expected gold to fall in the back of it, right? So we are a 506c Reg D equity fund. We're out of Delaware. We've got a Delaware corporation. I am the director of development for our sponsor company. So the sponsor company is the one that owns the equity fund. Now, this equity fund was put together by 2 women. And what they did was they discovered a program called the Opportunity Zone Fund program. It's part of the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act that was put into effect sometime in 2018. And basically what that is a equity fund that incentivizes capital gains to be used in the development of low to moderate income level areas. And so everybody typically goes, oh, so you got to build out in the projects, or you got to build over in the poor part of town, or whatever. No, it's built in the area designated.
Well, and the opportunity zones, I mean, if you guys aren't familiar with the O zones, we call them, or opportunity zones, I mean, you can pull up a map.
Right.
And they have all the O zones on there. We wholesale quite a few properties in O zones.
Right.
Because we have investors that, seek those areas out, right?
Right.
And I don't know all the regulations and rules and the tax benefits of it.
Right.
I do know that, from my understanding at least, the longer you hold a property in an O zone, the more tax benefits you get. And they're incentivizing longer term investment in these areas. To answer your question just real quickly on our private equity fund, we're really more on a private side.
Right.
So we're not like you, like going out and trying to really grow the fund necessarily. We work with a select few individuals, some doctors, some just retired folks really,
Right.
that have funds either in the stock market or mutual funds. CDs. I had a lady approach me the other day that had CDs.
Right.
For those younger folks out there that don't know what CDs are, those are, basically like treasury notes, fixed rate, 6, 12-month terms. They go all the way up to, I think, 5, 10-year treasury notes, bonds. So really kind of low risk, higher, or I shouldn't say higher, but definitely lower interest rate, lower risk type CDs. That's kind of our investor. But
Right.
the way we structure, we're essentially just a small equity fund where we pool funds together. And what we do is we do the value add part of real estate.
Right.
Now, what our main, differentiator, if you will, is that we also are on the front line of acquiring the asset at a distress level. So typically what these funds are doing is they're going out and they're purchasing it maybe from folks sending it to them, right? And they're paying, like you said earlier in this conversation, they're paying a big markup, right? They're paying, some wholesalers out there are making 50 grand on a deal, 20 grand on a deal, 5 grand. It just depends on how deep they're able to buy it.
Right.
Tommy's out here buying shit at 15%. So, we obviously, I don't think we've ever bought anything that low, but typically we're 50, 60 cents.
What would you mark that to, though?
So typically we sell stuff at 75, 80
Even
cents.
though if you got it at 15, would you sell it at 75?
No. If we got it at 15, we wouldn't sell it. And that's the whole point of the private equity fund, right? Is
Okay.
we would keep that in-house to our investors.
Okay.
Rather than selling it, right? When we wholesale it, they're outside of the fund.
Right. That's where you're making your cash.
They're
You're just turning paper into money.
Exactly.
And that's the wholesale side of your business.
Exactly.
So when you say a private equity fund, do you actually have any kind of business structure set up yet, like a 506c or?
Yes. So we have a corporate, like a holding company.
Okay.
That holds an LLC.
Got it.
That then holds the property.
So are you selling shares to that company, or how do you structure your deal with your investor?
So we set a separate LLC. So let's say you invest into the fund.
Right.
Then we would create a new LLC.
Right.
And that property is held
Right.
in that new LLC's fund.
Okay.
And then you're sold a percentage of that LLC.
Right. I understand what you're saying. So and that is what I would call the friends family version.
Exactly.
Of investing.
And you're exactly correct.
Right.
And that's something that my attorneys advise me, that I don't go and seek capital from folks that are not acquaintances, friends, family.
Right. That's
our bread and butter, right? Especially folks that we've had relationships with.
Do you know what your cap rate is on that? What is your amount of capital over the top of you right now? If you could add that all up, what would that number be?
So it ebbs and flows per how many deals we're doing. Right now, I think we have 2 deals.
No, I'm saying with the investors that you're talking about, what do you think if you went to every single investor you had right now?
Total dollars raised if we needed it tomorrow?
If you needed it tomorrow, you get to buy the White House.
4 million, 5 million.
Why don't you start a DST?
Educate me on that.
Delaware Statutory Trust. It's no different than a regular trust fund, but this is a 10-year holding note, which means that when they put their money in,
it's a 10-year term.
Hold on. That when they put their money in, what they get back is they get distribution off of the asset gaining interest and gaining capital.
Is it a fixed rate?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good,
That's just one vehicle, though.
Yeah.
So you have a DST. The other thing you could do is go over to what's called a convertible note.
Yeah.
So if you do a convertible note, you got a 3 to 5 year term. And at that point, they're more liquid, higher risk to you, lowers their risk, but then increases your cash on hand, and then they get a smaller to mid-size return, right? But then what they're getting is convertible equity, meaning that if you keep that property in-house, now what they gave you in a loan is no longer a loan. Now it's equity in the property, which then when it sells, they get back at whatever you make. So then instead of promising them 18%, you have that 3 to 5 years to pay them that 18%. But if they roll it into that equity part where they roll into, then at that point, if they get 25, great. But if it lost, they lost. It's literally like leaving your chips on the table and saying, let it ride, right?
Yeah, I think, from my standpoint,
and that's just another way that I'm learning. It was through the 2012 tax cut. I'm sorry, not tax cut, 2012 Jobs Act. The 2012 Jobs Act provided a different level of position for investors to enter the market. So it used to be only accredited investors. Then they came up with all the different levels of 506c regulatory fund operations. Like you can literally go in at a Schedule A where that A means that's basically like doing what's the big popular GoFundMe. That's basically how we get to that. So people that do NFTs,
but there's no expectation.
Is another form of crowdfunding.
But there's no expectation of return, and that's where you run into issues.
But those are the lower ones. As you get up higher, like in the mine, like the expectation of return comes from the fact that we have a high return rate based on how we structured.
But you're creating risk for yourself because your printed materials that you brought in today have a printed rate of return.
Right, absolutely.
IR.
And actually, that's a conservative number.
See, that's what everyone says, though, and I can't.
Well, and here's where
look at what Grant Cardone's done, right?
Totally understand.
Cardone Enterprise did the same thing. Oh, that was his go-to. That's a conservative number.
Right. I
Look
love
at
that
his
too.
ass. His
you know
ass
what?
is getting fucking clamped down.
I love proving Grant Cardone wrong. Ready?
You went and saw him.
No, I
saw that picture of you
several times. I paid that man over $100,000, and he still ain't had lunch with me.
Holy shit!
I paid.
Did you invest into his fund? I had two guys that invested in his fund.
I paid to go sit in a meeting with the guy Brandon over scaling up. And I literally was like, I can't deal with you guys. You guys don't even understand what I'm talking about. But and the reason is this. Ready? If you're making millions of dollars making lemonade, why are you going to listen to somebody who wants you to make strawberry jam?
You don't need to.
I don't need to.
Motherfucker, I'm making millions of dollars doing what I...
So Grant Cardone don't want none of this.
He would have never made millions of dollars if he did start trying to make,
No, if he continued to try and just make it, like as soon as he got the recipe for lemonade, he stopped and started jam, he'd never be Grant Cardone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, and then he opened that office in Scottsdale. But I want to hear...
That's not his.
So tell me more about what do you know about Grant Cardone? Because
so let me finish telling you why I can pitch you at 30% return. If I buy campground property, which is what our class is, it's called outdoor hospitality. Okay, understand hospitality as being hotels.
Yep.
Okay, so if I give you a campground at resort level, right, and I give you a resort hotel at resort level. What do you think the cost difference between development is between the hotel and a campground?
I mean, obviously the campground is going to be substantially less.
Like probably 75% less.
I would think so because just the dirt alone is going to be less. Location is less. Building is less. CapEx is, everything.
Right. Even including my net. Then let's factor in our expenses. Like hotels have concierge. They have
front
housekeepers,
desk,
front desk, like shit ton of employees. What do I have over here at campground? Do you see the difference now?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, now let's talk about what COVID did to the price of a campground site and the price of a hotel site.
Wow.
We are sweeping the same amount of money into our coffer as a hotel, a standard Holiday Inn at I-10 and Litchfield is getting the same per night as I'm getting at my glamping resort.
The demand's different though. You have two different demos.
Totally agree.
So aren't you worried though? Aren't you worried that what if tomorrow we have China virus number 2?
I'm going to get more money.
If people feel comfortable going to your campground.
Do you know why they would?
Why?
It's 200 acres with 200 spots. My 6-foot rule is amazing.
Fuck your 6-foot rule.
You got an acre between you and me. I can be outside without you seeing it.
Hell no.
Okay? Like literally, if I stand in the right direction, you might be able to see it because of the VD.
Yeah.
But, it's a shadow, bro, really. That's really what it is. Because that's the thing, is that, like you said, I'm acquiring the property. I'm getting all in, but I'm getting the same profit margin. I'm getting actually a 6-time, 7-time, 8-time profit margin than the hotel. Okay. And the reason why I'm profit margining so high is not because of the fact that my market grew or anything. It changed through COVID. There was a monumental shift in people's mentality.
I believe that. And I
go
see
look
that.
at Disney.
I see it. But I guess really where my concerns would be are what if, the hotel on the I-10 in Ray, right? They're going to appeal to a lot of different demos, right?
How many rooms do they have?
That's beside, but I'm just
So
saying.
let's go unit for unit, though.
But let's look at it like this. Let's also think, they're going to be, I would argue, a little bit more flexible in terms of they're going to be able to appeal to a lot wider of an audience than just someone that wants to go to a campground.
Agreed.
You have business travel, you have pleasure travel, you have necessity travel, you have, landlord tenant.
We call it the pie.
Exactly. So, they're going to have substantially more folks that potentially could be, a renter in their hotel, right? A campground, what if discretionary income goes down?
Okay. Discretionary income's probably only about 22% of our market.
So what's the other 78%?
The largest portion of our market, 48 to 50% of our market, is outdoor enthusiasts. That's not discretionary. They're not doing it.
I think it is.
But they're not doing it. They're living outdoors. These are people that buy tiny houses to live down by the river. And so they're literally, because now we can work from home, these are transient people. The American dream, like for me growing up, I was born in 75. You were probably still a fart in your dad's butt by then, right?
Yeah.
So in 75, when I was born, the American dream was to have a third of an acre lot with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on it and a garage not attached, right? We went to an attached garage in construction because it gave us the opportunity to go from an R4 down to an R6. And then pack more houses into subdivisions by saying the garage was attached. And then believe it or not, this was an issue probably way before you were born too, but people dying of carbon monoxide poisoning because the cars were they built the bedrooms above the garages, like, duh, right? And they were killing their kids while they're warming up their cars in the morning to go to work. And they're waking up with dead babies upstairs. They're coming home with dead babies. This was an issue in the 1980s. So that American dream to have that house changed. And it changed to now where kids don't want to have, kids don't want to have a house that they're strapped to for 30 years. They want to have 4 tiny houses or 4 units.
I call bullshit on that.
Where they can go and work from home and then go over here and work there and go over there and work there. They don't want the traditional subdivision house anymore.
I think that's what... I think that's the mainstream narrative, right? Where people want to assume that the younger generation, right? They want to assume that this younger generation is, they're a transient, they're a, world traveler, kind of inflow, outflow, this state, that state kind of type of individual. And I don't think that's sustainable long-term for the generation. I think at a certain point, they're going to have a family. They're going to be a little bit more anchored to where their doctors are at, where their pediatrician is, where their kid's school is. I don't think necessarily that it's always that way. And I'm not saying there's not a big – I think COVID has changed that. And I think there is a lot of people – and I think there's a lot – I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people
I'm
that
just basing it on
that.
data. Because here's the thing about me. Like I said, I'm a nurse, so I use data more than I use – emotion, right? Like I'll always go, like when we were in the hospital, there'd be a dude that walked in, he's like, oh, I just got a little indigestion. And if I treated it that way, in 30 minutes, we're doing CPR on that dude. And it's because I wasn't using logic. Okay, I'm going to treat chest pain, ABC, like follow the algorithm. If you don't follow the algorithm in the ER, you're going to kill people. And so that's why when I got out of the emergency room and I was able to apply what I learned as a nurse to what I'd learned early in my life, in case you didn't know, $22 million bankruptcy, bro. Like you don't make that mistake twice. So taking what I learned in healthcare to bring it back and having the gift to start back in real estate and development again, I don't do anything without an algorithm. And then I apply a little bit of emotion to it if it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so there's so many of the videos, and this is why I felt it was important to come in and talk with you, was because I'm building a crew. Like I already told you, like if I come in and do this, I want you to be on my stage.
Yeah.
Like I want to host a an entrepreneur's real estate program where we can go around and teach people about the different ways to invest in real estate. You've got passive investors, you got active investors. You service both. I service both. Like, we know people that service in other industries. You're not a Burr expert. I'm not a sub 2 expert, but we know those guys too. And we can actually put together something that goes around and educates more and more and more. And I think where that comes from is like what you're doing right now, where people are watching us educate each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and not being in that echo chamber of I agree on every single point and vice versa. And I think there needs to be more of these opposite viewpoints.
Totally.
That people learn. Those are the most interesting conversations I watch, Tommy.
Have you seen the one with Pace Moby and Grant Cardone where Pace is explaining to Grant about,
about
I've seen sub 2?
I've seen it.
And Grant's sitting there like, what?
Do you know a lot? Have you met Pace? Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really been on a personal level. I know I had a buddy that did a deal with them.
Right.
And a lot of that shit is all a facade.
No, yeah. I mean,
They're
but
not
that's the thing.
Buying shit.
Have you ever done manifestation? Any kind of studying of manifestation?
A little bit. I mean,
all right, obviously a little bit.
I mean,
like, you're manifesting already, you just don't know it.
Oh no, I mean,
you manifest on high levels.
I got a mirror. I have a lot of shit that I manifest and envision, and
yeah, but I think you're manifesting like a naked dude skydiving without a parachute.
Fuck you. No.
Like that's what I see when I watch your shit, right?
Fuck no.
So like shit's flying everywhere, but you're gonna make it. It'll be fine. Like, your scrotum will grow big enough to catch you. So, but I think the biggest thing that I notice with you the most is what's lacking is just the years of experience. Like, literally, that's all you need is 20 more years experience, right? And you can't get that working as hard as you do. There's not enough hours in the day. When I was a nurse, I only had to work 3 days a week, right? But if I wanted to become a flight nurse and I wanted to excel, I had to have a certain amount of hours. The only way I could do that was on my days off, go pick up more shifts. Right. So I literally would have 2 contracts going, doing 3 days here, 3 days there. And I'm getting all the hours I need to have 20 years of experience in 10. Right. I'm doubling up. You can't do that, bro. You don't have that luxury. You're busting your ass. All you can do is learn what are the best things about you that are the easiest to duplicate. And then continue to do that with your team. I'm watching you grow your team. Like, the reason why I'm late, half of the 3/4 of the reason why I'm late was the traffic. The other quarter is me coaching my guys who's trying to close, a $250,000 land home deal. Like, we do land home packages for people. And he's literally got this woman with land and she wants to build something, but she wants to do it backwards. And at some point I got to tell him, love to do the deal, but until she's willing to do it the way we want, we have to let her go. And if she doesn't want to do plans to permits that way, then we can't do it the other way. She's wanting to put value into the dirt and then kick us out, basically. And it's not why we're not doing the deal. You can't put a septic tank and an electric pole on a vacant piece of property without plans. They just won't let you do it. So at the end of the day, it's not about us trying to get into the deal. It's about her trying to get out of it as easy as she can. So I literally told him, I said, you tell her we want 50% of the land and we'll do all the work. And then we'll get the deal done and we'll give her 50% after we're done. And then we're going to mark it up 40%. Everything we do is marked up 40%. So now at the end of the day, she's still only going to get $50,000 for the dirt on her profit. And we're going to get what we had done, plus the interest of doing the job for 9 months.
So, yeah, and I mean, we can talk forever about coaching and training. I mean, that takes up majority of my time, and that's really my passion is getting into the weeds and really doing it too. I'm a big believer in leading from the front. I think unless Tommy's out there doing deals himself and helping his guys, I think that's where they learn a lot as well, right? Is not only by you telling them, but by you doing
Bringing them into the deal.
Bringing them in. Exactly. Showing them.
Right.
Right. I think, and that's what the issue is a lot right now with the guru mentality is they want to sell you a course, but that same money you could go buy a course is the same money
Get
you
you
can
in
get
a deal.
into a deal.
Right.
And you're probably going to learn more and you're going to make money instead of just spending money and probably learning less.
And that's awesome.
And that's why my whole business model, what we have here, the young money mindset and everything that we do is really geared more towards around making sure, like our saying is people over profits, right? And I think if you lead with that mentality of putting people first over the profits,
right.
I know you've done this, Tommy, is, you might lose some profits, but
right.
you're going to keep the people.
No,
and
absolutely.
ultimately it's going to make you more profit, right?
Right.
So it's all a circle. But let's get back to the Grant Cardone thing because that's something that's really interesting. So I know everyone listening understands and knows who Grant Cardone is. I don't think a lot of people know under the hood in terms of what's going on at a high level in terms of like the lawsuits, the defamation case that I think he's in right now. He's got a lot of moving parts. And it seems like, at least from my observations over the last maybe 3 to 6 months, the wheels have just fallen off. And that's the way I perceive it.
When you look at Grant Cardone's, like for example, when you look at his track record, you look at what he's been able to do. Okay, let's take him out of the realm of investor guru, right, and put him back where he belongs, which is in a Louisiana, Mississippi hillbilly, right? Like he's a crawfish eating, potato smashing redneck. That's all he is. At the end of the day, that's all he is. Hustler to the max, bullshitter to the extreme, motivation to the utmost, right? So when you look at that, and this comes from my psychology experience in nursing, motivation and manipulation are the same thing. They're just motivationally, or motivation and manipulation are just powered by a different construct.
Different intent.
There's a different intent, right? So is Grant Cardone manipulating people out of their money? No. Is Grant Cardone actually believe 100% that he is motivating people to make more money? Absolutely. Like my TikTok handle is Millionaire Maker. Why did I pick that? Because Grant Cardone isn't the only one. Okay, I've got 27 millionaires in my phone that I created myself, like working them, bringing them into the deal, right? And showing them and working, not even showing them. Some of them.
Is that your brand though? Is that what you're going to brand?
We're leaning that way.
How do you brand that? How the hell do you own Millionaire Maker though? How do you own that?
A brand is only what you make of it, right? Nike is a swish until Michael Jordan.
No, but they own the swish. Though,
they did, but
right?
I mean the swish.
They bought it actually from a designer that made the swish.
Right.
I think they paid him fucking $50 to make the swish.
Dog shit, right? But it actually didn't mean shit until Jordan put his name on it.
Absolutely, but you got to own it.
That's a brand.
You got to own it though.
Oh,
right?
Totally.
I struggle with that too, and my buddy was talking.
Sue me, like find me and sue me, find me, sue me, and then see if you can get it all. Like let's play the game.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and it just depends on if anyone has that IP and is branding it. I know there is the Millionaire Mentor, there's the Millionaire Maker,
right? There's all
variations of that.
But isn't it cool that we get to talk about people being millionaires right now?
I think it's awesome.
When I was 5 years old, like there was no millionaires. Like we didn't have.
Well, houses also cost like fucking
$5,000.
Yeah, whatever. So you didn't need to be a millionaire. No. You needed to be 100,000aire.
That was the name of the video game.
Yeah.
That was the name of the TV show.
Yeah.
There was a TV show called $100,000 Pyramid. That was the name of the TV show. Sure. And you had to guess questions with a celebrity. Like they had a celebrity and then a guest, and they would play the game together and try to get that person to $100,000 bankroll. And so that's the thing. Like, if you follow the way that society goes, like I'm looking at your board over there, it just pisses me off. $10K a month. Like, who wants to do that? That's low. It needs to say $100K a month, right? Like, or $10K a day or something, because that to me is not thriving, not surviving. On my payroll, that's surviving. That's not thriving.
Seeing a lot of guys talk shit on the $10K a month, but
it needs to be $100K a month.
Show me a guy's paycheck, because I got the checks right here, Tommy. Literally, right over here.
Right.
Guys making
I don't doubt it.
The guy's making 30, 40 grand a month here on our team.
That's awesome.
Now, when we have the checks to prove it. Now,
Right.
everyone wants to talk shit like, oh, 10 grand isn't shit, but they can't also bring the checks to my office and show me 40 guys, 30 guys, 20 guys, 10 guys, 5 guys that are making that on a consistent basis.
And then whose fault is that?
Their own.
Whose? Which ones? The guys or the leader?
The leader's fault.
Okay. So if you want your guys to make $100,000 a month, you need to change your sign.
I agree. But I'm also a big believer in
Realistic?
Yes.
Being realistic?
No, not
Hold up. You know what happens when you're realistic? You don't get to be Willy Wonka.
Yeah, I don't think everyone can be Willy Wonka though.
But that's the problem. To me, that's the problem.
That is a problem because in social media land, right, and Fugazi land, everyone wants to act like you can be the fucking Willy Wonka.
Why can't you?
And now it's put on a pedestal, and you have a lot. I mean, look at our sign right here, young money mindset. We talk to a lot of the younger generation that always have to be the guy, right? And they don't understand the mentality of, would you rather be the number 1 guy at a startup no one's ever fucking heard of, or would you rather be the number 7 guy at Google?
Number 1 guy at my startup.
And no one knows you, and you're probably going to make substantially less money than the number 7 guy at Google.
I'll do it 10 times.
Do you know the number 7 guy at Google?
I'll do it 10 times. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I have the ability, the God-given gift, to be able to take that to Google.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but
I will never get to number 1 at Google because you just gave me the 7. I'll never go to number 1.
But you don't always need to be the number 1
I can always be number 1 at this place and become greater. Let me give you this real quick, just for a minute, because you keep referring to the young money mindset. And so if I can speak to I'm stepping on my cord and choking myself. If I can speak to the young money or the young mindset, not the money mindset, because the money mindset's new for a lot of people. Like your generation, your group, and the groups underneath you are going to be money motivated. They didn't teach it in high school, but they're going to be teaching it on Facebook. This is where we get our media.
I disagree, though.
But how many courses do you see on social media every single day?
You see the courses, but how many?
We're doing one right now. You can flip open to a live, and you'll find somebody in front of a whiteboard educating the youth.
I think there is also a small category of people that actually believe, though, that they're going to be successful. And I think there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of things out there with the younger generation right now where do you know what the average age of people still living at their parents' house is right now?
32.
Okay. Do you think it was that way in your generation?
No. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because the parents didn't have the house to keep them in.
Okay. So they were forced to get out into the real world and guess what? Go make money.
And that's what they did.
And what are they doing now? They're playing fucking video games. They're watching TikTok. They're watching everyone else live life, and they're learning and learning and learning.
A lot of them do. I don't disagree with that.
And a lot of them are not actually out there taking massive action. And we both know being successful, it's like if I wanted to teach you about everything to know in the gym. At a certain point, Tommy's got to go fucking in the gym and work out, right?
No, and I agree with you. And so you asked about my brand. Yeah, Millionaire Maker is making more millionaires because I've read the Grant Cardone books. I've read all of the self-help get rich books, right? I did a little TikTok on it. The top 10 books that made me rich, the top 10 books that helped me make a millionaire, right? But it's not in the book. What they don't tell you in any single book is when to walk away. When to give up that deal. When to tell the guy you either pivot or you break. And so not one book that I've ever read out of the 550 get rich books I've ever read, does any one of them tell you how to get away from a deal? They all have to tell you how to do a deal. Otherwise, they're useless books, right? Like, what's the point? So when it comes down to speaking to just the young mindset, right? Being coachable is probably the hardest thing it took me to ever learn, right? Literally learning how to bite my tongue caused me to lose my teeth and get pretty dentures. Right? Because I will rip my teeth out to get my tongue to move. Like I had that issue with the pride of, I know what I'm doing. I was a 24-year-old millionaire, bro. Like that's hard to be when you're 24 or it's easy to be broke. Whereas I didn't have the problems my broke buddies did. I was jealous of their asses, literally. Like, bro, you literally don't have to pay a car payment because you got a girlfriend that drives you around everywhere? What, I want that problem, but that's impossible when you're as motivated as I am, right? So when I speak to young people today, and you included, and I'm giving you this as like, I hope this is value to you.
For sure. I'm learning.
And then this turns value into whoever you're representing. I need you to find a way to understand that 10K energy is just 100K energy on low. Like, it takes the same amount of energy. It takes the same amount of paperwork. It takes the same amount of lag and all that to get to that spot. And it literally is way easier than just, well, I gotta do this over 6 months or a year. No, you can do it now, right? If you have the right attorney, if you have the right consultant, the right advisor, you can conquer the world in less than a generation, no different than Alexander the Great did. You just got to be ready to do it. Grant did it, but Grant's still learning. Like, he didn't even understand sub 2, and he's already a billionaire. Great. That shows me one thing, that it doesn't take 20 different ways to get rich in real estate.
You'll never get rich if you focus on 20 different things.
No.
You'll never be Grant Cardone if you're the expert.
But you will fail like Grant Cardone if you don't know how to do 20 different ways. So it's that jack of all trades.
Well, have you read the book Who Not How?
Who Not How I have not read.
Who Not How is a really great book that dials this in. And I think that's one of Grant's biggest shortcomings is he's built a team that I don't think even Jared Glant, a lot of these guys on his team, right, they're put in positions. I think his pilot's the great example, right? Now the guy's is like in his business, right? The guy was his fucking pilot.
Right.
So it's taking a guy that you've built a relationship with, your pilot, and turning him into a business guy, right?
Right.
And I think at a certain point, it goes to speak to our earlier point where everyone wants to be the guy. His pilot was so involved and just high on this fame and this big money and $100,000 a month and these big numbers and big conferences that they go from being the pilot to wanting to be the guy, right? Like Grant.
Right.
And I think that's what ultimately hinders a lot of these organizations, and I study them because at the end of the day, everyone can't be the guy. Right? If you want to take your guy that you were just coaching and you want him to go and be Tommy 2.0 and go do his own thing, is he going to build a team? Are you going to build a team? Right? Is anyone going to be on the team? Because at a certain point, when you have this mindset of, oh, everyone's got to be the number one guy, it's hard to really build a team that's going to be tight-knit, right? When you look at a lot of different organizations, right? Like Google. I always use Google as an example, or Apple, right? It pays to be the number 7 guy. And there's a lot of people that think they want to be the number 1 guy until they are the number 1 guy, Tommy. And then they're like, fuck.
Why?
I want to go ride around in my girlfriend's car with no car payment. I don't want to be the fucking guy.
Why do you use Google or let's just say
use any company.
Okay, so let's use one that's local that we probably both know.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's use what's a good local company like QT and Circle K.
I think those are great.
Let's use those two companies right there because they're local, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you go to if they're across the street from
QT.
each other? Who do you go to? Why?
Because nicer.
Nicer. Let's start right there. There's one. What's the next one? Why?
Selection.
More stuff, right? And then the third one. Give me a third one.
A lot of times it's just convenience. I mean, it really is. It's
no line.
No line.
They're quick, right?
Yep, quick, yeah.
Right. Okay. So do you think they operate better based on better management or better system?
Both.
Give me, because
system first.
Which one is the higher
system
creates?
System.
Okay. So
Circle K, just to speak on that real quick.
Yeah.
Circle K, have you seen now they have the two selfless
self-checkout bullcrap that don't work anyway.
It doesn't.
Right.
Like
they keep investing into Circle K for what? To make it not like QT, but better so that the customers go back over there. right? So they're not trying to duplicate what Circle K does or QT does. But what they're doing is they're creating something that will draw people over there instead of over here. Because a convenience store is just that, a convenience store, right? Like, did you know they only make 5 cents a gallon off of the gas?
I would have guessed it was lower than that. But yeah.
3 cents to 5 cents a gallon per gas.
Yeah.
And that's because they know that they can sell you a $3 candy bar when you come inside.
Absolutely. That's the whole business model.
That's the business model.
You even see the gas. Sometimes the gas is different than the convenience store.
Right. And the reason being is because they have a contract. They're not affiliated or they're just subsidiary. So I study business structures, right? Grant Cardone is where I would say is in a position of he has no more leverage, right? And so the most recent thing that he's doing is he's putting on conferences, offering a scaling process for trades companies, HVAC, plumbers, contractors, landscapers, anything you need to do what you do to provide a house is what Grant Cardone is now trying to invest in. And the reason why is I call it the 10 factor. You know, he's 10X, but it's still a 10. He didn't come up with it. He just branded it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like he branded
absolutely,
it.
Yeah.
So it's not anything new, but basically what Grant did is if you're a company that's making 100,000, it's so easy to take a company at 100,000, apply a system to it and grow it to $1 million. You can do that in a month. I've done it. I've got 4 companies right now that do that off of Facebook Marketplace. Now, if I take that $100 or $1 million company, how long or what do I need to do to make it from there to 100 million? And so the effort from 100,000 to $1 million is the same amount of effort from $1 million to 100 million. But as I get closer to my goal of 100 million, it's harder and harder and harder. It crunches. And Grant found that between $10 and $25 million, he's able to keep that owner happy, right? Keep that owner operator happy while collecting 30 to 35% of the net profit of that $25 million company now.
Well, and it goes to speak to, at those other levels too, it's a different mindset. And I think a lot of it has to do with comfortability as well. I think when you hand someone a $10 million business from a $1 million business and you 10X it, it's just the human nature, right? We're pre-wired. I mean, speaking about psychology, I'm reading a really good psychology book right now where they talk a lot about humans being pre-wired to take the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
And we're constantly, us that have higher EQs, right? And we can get in the whole EQ versus IQ situation, but that's why a lot of these founders have, higher EQ versus IQ.
And so now you've just answered your conundrum you mentioned earlier about not everybody can be number one.
Exactly.
Because not everybody wants to be.
Well,
they act it.
Yes.
But they can't do it. And when given that opportunity, they shirk.
Yeah.
Right? They go, oh, no,
and it's
hot flame.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think the issue is you have a lot of people out there right now that say you need to be the number one guy. You need to be the guy. I'd rather be the number one guy, right? And you have all of these guys that are just preaching this mentality of you need to be that guy when they know damn well, like we are sitting down today, not everyone can be the guy. Right, and
right, but they're selling that based on it's FOMO,
yes,
right?
It's exactly what it is. But it's okay to not be that. So,
but for who?
For both people.
Well, not for me. Ready? So here's my thinking: if you're not wanting to be at the top, if you don't want to beat me, then you don't want to be with me.
We're not talking about the same thing.
No, you're right. We're not, because when I'm building a team,
that's different.
I don't want anybody to conquer me. I have a saying in my business is this: if you stand behind me, I will protect you. If you stand next to me, I will respect you. But if you stand in front of me, I will fucking eat you for breakfast.
And that's exactly what we're talking about.
And so that's what I do in my team building is they understand that we are a wolf pack. And so, yes, my guy Roman might take down the kill, but I'm coming in to smother the muzzle, okay? And I get to take the heart, because if I don't get the heart, and I let somebody else take it. Now what I've done is I've given them the ability to dictate how my business is going to roll, and him and I are going to be in a boardroom selling that business to him by the end of the week, because now he's the owner. And I'll just go at 10%, baby. I'll just sit back and be your knowledge base. I don't need to be the top dog. See, that's the difference between I want him to be number one and fight for it, and then when he gets to it, I don't have to be the bull elk or the alpha dog and fight to keep it when I can just give it to him and slide right back into like crescent mode where I'm like 10, 15%, you do the work. I'm going to go do a new one. And that's what Grant Cardone didn't do, and that's what I'm doing.
But that's exactly to my point that I think a lot of people, they have a hard time understanding that if they are the number one guy, release that, let them be the number one guy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Right? There's nothing, and I think you should have those people on your team. There should be a point where you phase people out of your organization, and if you're confident in your abilities to go recruit, train, and coach, it doesn't really matter. We all know that, right? Do you think QT gets upset when an executive leaves? No.
Have you ever seen their name badges at QT?
Yeah.
Do you know what's on? Tell me what's on their name badge.
The date they joined.
Have you ever seen one that's brand new?
No, but one thing I do when I go into QT or any convenience store for that matter is I address them by their name.
That's it, and that's great.
And you know what happens 9 times out of 10?
Smile and
they light up.
Yeah, they do. Right.
Because no one is ever addressed by their name.
That's how simple humans are.
Absolutely.
We make them so complex.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I said break Cardone back down to a freaking Louisiana mudsucking hillbilly. And then he becomes the superstar he deserves to be.
And this is my 2 cents, and we'll button up the whole Grant Cardone side. I think Grant Cardone has lost some credibility.
Totally.
And I think that's his main issue is that he's had so much brand and so much built up reputation where he was the guy, right? That we keep going back to. But when you trying to think of the best word. When you build a community and you're not the one that you say you are,
right?
And people find out about you, right? It's like it goes back to the saying, like, I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Totally understand.
And I think a lot of people loved him for who he's not, and now they hate him, because of that, right? And I think they've lost a lot of that respect.
I think a lot of the heat he catches is because of how successful he is. No different than Elon Musk.
Yes, I would agree, for sure.
Like Elon Musk, I don't think he's ever hurt a fly on somebody's head.
No. Right? And I agree. And
he catches so much hate.
Well, there's just a lot of hate for success in general.
That's it.
We get hate because we're successful.
I'm starting to, right? Like, I didn't ask for it, but it's coming.
I get people that commented on my stuff and talk shit all the time.
I talk shit on you because I get your attention. It's like, hey.
Yeah.
Because, and again, like, and I'm hoping to see this from you. Like, when you got that phone call, and this is probably the one, like, if you want to break off a Grant, let's break off of him on this note. You and I can both agree that we have not done the paper that man has.
Yep.
And so, due respect to that only.
100%. And I respect him as a family man,
and as
a father, all of that.
All that stuff that he's
done.
As a
man.
But I've had the opportunity to shake his hand. I've had the opportunity to talk to him. I've had the opportunity to sit with him and discuss business.
Tell us about that real quick, and then we'll button up, because I know the audience.
Dumb Louisiana mud sucking redneck hillbilly. Like, that's it. He looked at me, goes, I like your boots. I was like, here's my pitch deck. You want to talk about, he didn't care about the IRR. He's like, ghost towns. Tell him about ghost towns. What you got ghost town going? He did. And then he's just a dumb hillbilly. So I literally jumped into hillbilly mode. I'm like, buddy, this is great as shit. Like, we go off-road and like we were boomhowering.
Why didn't he invest into the fund?
Because his handler got the freaking pitch deck. Adios.
And we talk about levels, right? He's on a level where you don't even fucking.
You're not allowed to get that. I got special attention. And here's the thing. And I don't know if you do this, but if you don't, I'm encouraging you. I'm inviting you formally. I wore the gear so I could formally invite you. Okay. I would love to have you and I go to the conference coming up in San Francisco, to the Rad Diversified Conference. Okay. And we go to this conference. It's a 2-day conference in San Diego. And what they do is it's a room full of their own personal investors that they farmed themselves. They have got a $250 million real estate investment trust that they have built doing nothing but fix and flips in Philadelphia and Tampa, Florida.
I'd love to go.
And so that right there is an opportunity for you to know how to not only know, but see what it takes to go from 10K to 100K to like your team is making you 100K a day per person. Like, Cardone, if you could see what his payroll looks like per month, it's astronomical, right? And when I was in business before, I didn't measure anything on and I was always just like, what's my bank account say? I don't know what my bank account says today. As a matter of fact, my wallet was stolen yesterday, and somebody used my credit card to pay my Lowe's bill so they could test to see if everything was still on. And so we're going to try to catch them because they were messing with the cards already. But I wouldn't know what is in my bank account if I didn't wake up this morning and have to deal with my lost debit card. What I focus on is how much is my payroll this week? How many W-2s will I have that I have to send out at the end of this year? Or in your case, 1099s. How many 1099s? How many deals did I get? I set milestones that are not monetary, because then what it does, it eliminates, I call it the fear of the zero. Like commas and zeros freak people out because, again, we're automatically conditioned path of least resistance. When we see 9 zeros, 10 zeros, 11 zeros, you're like, is that really possible? Yes, it's possible. Freaking Mount Everest is possible.
Well, and I like that's one thing I have on my mirror at my house, right? Is 7-figure payroll. We're at 6-figure payroll right now, right? So 6-figure payroll is, that's minimum what we run every 2 weeks. Boom, boom, boom. So 6-figure payroll for me, for where we want to go and where I want to go as a team and as a brand,
right? We
need to be doing 7-figure payroll. And 7-figure payroll starts with coaching, training, pouring in. I mean, it really does comes down to the skills set of your team. I mean, there's no way around the skill set of your team. If your skill set of your team is not up to par, and it's constantly evolving as well.
Well, and I'm smiling only because I have to give you some knowledge. Like we already discovered, it isn't your skill set. It's your schedule. It's your
skill set as well.
Let me give it to you this way. When I was an emergency room nurse, if we did not have algorithms and we didn't have a set operating procedure in the emergency room, bro, I could have rock star nurses and doctors and kill people all night.
I'm not saying systems. Saying systems aren't important.
No, and here's what I'm saying. I didn't say you did. What I'm hoping you do is you focus less on skill set and more on your systems, right? Because you can do, like, we built pyramids supposedly with slaves, okay? Like, I don't understand that, right? There was way higher technology, and I use this with my guys when we're out in the field. Like, when we have something astronomical, and they're like, there's no way we can do this. I go, think like an Egyptian, bro. Like, how did they build the pyramid? This is not, we've done septic
Newsflash, the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids. That shows some aliens. Right
aliens.
That
well, that's the thing.
They fucking landed on
it was different systems going on, right? So it just, and when you're in, and I guess that's where I have a little bit of an advantage is that I know the difference between life and death. And you talked about EQ and IQ. I know the difference between real life and death. And when we're doing real estate, there's no such thing as life or death, even close.
Yeah.
Right. And so getting to the point where I'm mad about some dollar amount is only a game. It's part of the facade, which is no different than what Grant Cardone does. It's like, yeah, I know people with $20 billion. He probably does. But it's going to take him how many to get there, right? I made the mistake last week of going to an event called a Registered Investment Advisors Meeting. And I say, I was grateful to make this mistake because I went there understanding that I have an equity fund And so when they invited me, I didn't notice like there were two different categories. And so I specialize in opportunity zones. I'm actually an advisor for an opportunity zone. I took a certification test, boom, done. Like I can coach people on how to develop and start and manage an opportunity zone equity fund. So I registered as that. What I realized was that I was getting a free ticket to an event that cost $30,000 by accidentally registering the wrong direction. If I would have registered as a fund, it would have been $30,000. But because I registered as an advisor,
You cheap ass, Tommy.
I got a $30,000 ticket for nothing.
You cheap ass. You should.
Let me back you up. Let me back you up for a minute. Not only that, but did you know that when I went there, there was over $3.3 trillion of money walking around that floor shaking hands? Okay, there's a video of it on my TikTok. I took a video of it because every person there was representing at least $25 million. And there was 166 of them. And so like there were some people there that had 200, 300, 1.2 B. Like I was walking around with Billies and Millies, you know, and I'm going, this is not my world. But do you know I walked out of there? And again, networking is where it's at. This is why I tell you I want you to go with me to this networking. I wouldn't have met you if I didn't go to your networking. I think that the key to success is less on skill set and more on relationships. It's your motto, not mine. People over profit. Yes, understanding someone's skill set is good, but if you give someone a very, very strong schedule or structure to work in, their skill set gets better, right?
Yeah.
It just gets better and better and better. And I believe that's the success of some of the most hated people in the world. And so I encourage you to go to study more about two things. One, investment vehicles that you can use to do your business and make more money for capital by investing more, like how to get investors to invest into different vehicles. And so whether that's using a real estate investment trust, starting a DST, launching some kind of equity fund, like not just calling it an equity fund, but actually getting a 506c Reg D Delaware corporation, put your money into that. Now you're opening it up, and they call it vehicles for a reason, bro. Like right now, you're pulling around a little red wagon, and you're doing a great job. But what you have, your system, and your people, and your mindset, that mindset right there is a $150 million company.
I appreciate that, Tommy.
If you are not a $150 million company in 5 years, I failed.
Well, and I love that. I love that. And that's what true leadership's about is in Jocko Willink's book, I don't know if you've read, it's called the Extreme Ownership, and it's taking ownership over everything in your life. And I think that's awesome just to see firsthand. But I really appreciate that, and I agree. I think 150 million is really something that I think it's like a game, right? It's like fuck the zeros and the commas, right? It's like let's just keep leveling up in the game, and eventually you turn around and fuck it's 250 million,
Right.
So. And I really try to take a balanced and grounded approach in our coaching and what we do, right? Because there's a lot of people that come to me or just that I'm sure go to you, especially in the construction world. I could imagine, but $10,000 is a month, is a lot of money to a lot of people. I mean, just being real, it's a lot of money to a lot of people,
Right.
Whether you want to,
It can be life changing.
it can be, right?
It can be.
Now, is that the North Star? Absolutely not. Is that the minimum standard? The minimum standard to be on our team? Absolutely. Right? And I think there's something to be said about setting expectations. I'm a believer in setting expectations early and often. And if you've watched my content, you know that. And I've said that multiple times. Set expectations early and often. And if your expectation is a minimum of $10,000 a month, then you understand that, hey, shit, if this guy's constantly hitting $10,000 a month, you're doing the minimum, right? Do we want to be surrounded with people doing the minimum?
Right.
Fuck no, we don't, right?
Well, I don't give them one.
Yeah, but you need to have some sort of measuring stick, right? You
and,
need
and again, it's a matter of after 25 years in business, I can tell you if you're a good roofer based on how you climb a ladder, right? So based on that, like you knew the day I showed up and looked at that house that I had torn down more than one house before. I've walked through one or two fireplaces before.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was based on how I walked around the property, how I sounded talking about it. But you've never seen me do it. And so when you see somebody do something, that changes the direction of it a little bit. And so that again is goes back to my nursing, I guess, in that a lot of people assume like nurses work for doctors. And that's a societal misnomer that's not the case. As a matter of fact, in the surgical suite, the surgeon works for the nurse. The nurse is the one that handles the management of the care during the patient's downtime.
The nurse does what 90% of the work. I mean,
no,
but they do a lot
they
prior to the.
They
the
do the
surgeon.
documentation and everything. The surgeon is the specialist.
But they come in at the end, right?
No, they're there the whole time.
Okay.
Start to finish. In a surgical suite, they have what's called a CRNH. That's a certified registered nurse anesthetist. They're the one that puts the patient to sleep. And that came out of the fact that surgeons before nurses were just doing surgery on people without knocking them out. And so they were trying to knock them out and then do the surgery, and they were overdosing them. And so again, systems.
Yeah.
Like you had doctors, brilliant surgeons killing people. Why? Systems.
Yeah.
Systems are huge.
Systems are huge, and you know, and it just goes to the overall, you know, kind of conversation. And I really appreciate you coming in today. I've learned something, and you know, I really am grateful to be surrounded by people like you, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like ever since the day we met, you know, and then I think we reconvened, and you know, since then I know there's been a gap in time. But, you know, I keep up on your stuff. I see it. One thing I wanted to tell you is you need to get your production higher, Tommy. Your videos sometimes look like shit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like, for one, you need an iPhone.
I spend $0.
But you need an iPhone.
Right.
You spend money on a phone. You need an iPhone with a good camera.
Right.
Let's start there. Like, fuck, that Android doesn't cut it.
And here's the thing. If I was trying to produce, totally 100% on your team.
But absolutely, please fucking put an iPhone in your pocket.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to delete fucking TikTok.
That's a whole nother conversation. TikTok or iPhone versus Android, whatever.
But I'm just saying for the camera quality.
This is a brand new Android, right? Android, Samsung S24 dick sucker, whatever. It comes with an automated blowjob device, everything, and only because I know how to operate it. You put an Apple.
You know how to. Oh my gosh!
Can't do it. I don't know how to operate an Apple.
And you tell me you're fucking crazy,
bro.
Clip that. Hey, clip that right there, and we'll put fucking
Gen X, fucking millennial. This is what happens, bro.
Fucking baby boomer central doesn't know how to fucking work. I'm
not a baby. I'm barely a Gen Xer.
Okay.
All right, I'm barely into the Gen X generation. But I can't. Here's what I can't do. You can't change. Ready for this? I don't spend energy or time doing something that doesn't make me money.
And an iPhone, I guarantee you would make you more money.
If I had somebody to operate it, I could go here, do that.
Not even that. An iPhone is the same. It's the same.
I had one. No, I've tried. And again, systems. It's about systems. And I'm not.
What's different about an iPhone versus an Android?
So the functionality, like for example, the ADD level that a Gen Xer has can't operate. I can break an Apple's operating system within 4 minutes. Because of how much shit I have open and going. And so I will lock up that phone just based on the fact that I can't operate between my text messages, my video game, my Robinhood, and my AOL account. You know, you got to have AOL, bro.
Are you fucking serious?
That's how old I am. AOL, baby.
Fucking Android and the AOL.
I can get the AOL email still on here. I can't even get AOL. It's like they don't even have an Apple AOL app anymore, bro. That's stupid.
The fucking
like
AOL.
We still need, bro. Believe it or not,
still fucking dialing up shit over on the internet.
Exactly. So there is a point where it does become cumbersome to be old, right? And so again, I would love to have the budget that my boy has on the video camera and like I told you, I did podcasts long time ago. Why I don't do them now is because where my energy is focused isn't into creating content. I create content for peace of mind, right? Like I'm on there, I'm like, let me play with this, boom, done. It's something that I do in between answering all of the emails and the phone calls that I'm making.
In order for you to get to the next level you want to go, you have to have.
Totally agree with you. I've been
That's
told.
the only reason Grant Cardone is Grant Cardone. It's
100%.
not because he's a
No, you're right.
Louisiana guy. He's a dumbass.
I've got to make the decision that I want to
You
be
have to invest in it, and you have to take
there.
it serious.
Yeah,
you have to invest.
totally.
It just starts with investing in it. And I've made that decision recently. I didn't have any of this shit, right? This is all pretty new to me. Like I made the decision in order for me to get to the next level, literally as a video game move. Like I needed to invest in it and take it as serious as I take my business.
Right.
As serious as you take coaching and as you take recruiting and mentoring and building and construction, you need to take social media.
I totally agree with you.
And you need to take it the production level as well.
And here's what I've got, right? I do social media, believe it or not. And what I actually have is I've built 4 companies using Facebook Marketplace. And because it doesn't cost you anything. And I've built those 4 companies up to $1 million gross annual sales just using Facebook Marketplace. And so it's very time consuming. If I could have a virtual assistant do that work, great. But if I could understand how to hook up a virtual assistant, I would, right? So it's
I can hook you up with one.
I know the answer to the problem. I just don't know the procedure to the question.
No, we have a VA team, and I mean the VA team is one of the best additions.
Right.
I mean, it just comes into working smarter, not harder.
One of my ads just hit 6,600 clicks this week, and or responses. So that's not clicks. That's like they all said, "Is this available?"
Yeah,
6,600 times.
What are you selling?
Septic tanks.
Okay, smart. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of Paradise Septic, right?
They install, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just sell the tank.
You know, with the ADEQ side.
Yes.
Yep. So we do quite a bit with that. Anytime that it changes, but that would be also a really
who do you use for
Paradise Septic?
Okay.
Yeah, they come out and they pump it and they do the certification. Mm-hmm. That would be a business venture I would love to discuss with you, especially if you're knowledgeable on the septic tank side.
Right.
I think there's a lot of. I mean, there's a big niche. That's definitely a niche that I think
I have three precast companies that I sell for. I know their base price for the box, and then I know their charge for delivery, and then I charge $400 to $600 per sale.
On top, yeah.
On top.
You know, I bought a property. I was going to buy a property up in Payson,
right?
And it had a cesspool,
mm-hmm.
and I had to put in a septic,
right?
And that's got to be a whole nother market because hauling that shit up to these northern Arizona, they don't do any of that shit up there.
Nothing.
It's all hauled from the valley.
Right. It's all brought up from down here.
So, and it was, I mean, I was getting bids and it was astronaut. I thought about going and fucking buying a truck and fucking parking it out here and to hire a driver to freaking just make that drive, you know, a couple times a week to get septics up there. Cause guys are building, I mean, ADUs, tiny homes.
We have 2 yards, one in Williams and the other one in Seligman. And so we just take tanks up. Like anytime we have a delivery up there, for one tank, we take 2 and we drop one off at the yard.
Smart, yeah.
So we're just building surplus out there. Right now, I mean, the market is ridiculous. I know that you're like super focused on what you do and what you're doing currently. And so I was glad that you gave me the opportunity to come in, kind of rattle your cuckoo clock a little bit and be like, hey, look over here. Because when I do see you get in those situations, I'm like, bro, like, do you know how easy it would be to JV some of the deals you're getting into with some of the contractors you need? Like I heard the one that got me fired up was the one where you're like, well, I'm gonna get 3 estimates and make them fight for it. And I'm like, And that is why housing is so fucking ridiculous.
Well, that's why all these fucking greedy ass contractors out here love to shoot you fucking
ready
high.
for this when you're the only fucking contractor in
Oh,
town?
that's what they all say.
Literally, do you know how many blue collars are left out there doing my job?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
And so that's the problem. When I get to the point that laying
Because they all want to be the guy, right? They all want to be the guy. They're looking
believe me,
at Grant Cardone.
I have a
and shit
lot of
online.
these jackasses that tell me they can do X, Y, Z. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm transparent. Like, and again, let's not mention GC's name too much, but as GC says, keep your sales transparent. And so I tell everybody that I'm dealing business with exactly how much I'm making. So that way, if they don't like it, then go pound sand. Like, you came to me. I didn't come to you and say, will you buy my shit? You came to me and said, I want to buy your shit. You come at me and say, sell me your shit at a discount. I don't even respond and I report you. I don't even want to deal with you. And that's the different mindset that comes from not having a broke mentality and having a money mindset mentality. When you are able to defeat that natural instinct of the easiest path of resistance, you change your mindset into what works best.
Yeah.
Not what makes me feel good right now, right? My dad died on 123, or I'm sorry, 12/31/23. 123/123.
Wow. Sorry to hear.
Old man was like, I'm out. New Year's Eve. I tap.
Fuck.
Right? 71 years old. He literally never made over $100,000 a year in his life. Do you know why? Because he was scared.
Yeah.
He couldn't get the mindset.
Yeah.
He couldn't get the, like, he was a motivated hustler. Like, I never seen anybody hustle like my dad. And that's where I get it from. Right? But what I seen him do was suffer from fear. And
Fear of failure?
Fear of success.
Or do you think it was fear of failure?
No, it's fear of success, because he was afraid that if he got that job, well, then he's going to have to perform at that level. And he was scared that if he couldn't perform at that level, he would lose.
It's
Fear of failing. But ready for this? He had the skills.
He did, and a lot of people do, Tommy.
He had the skills. He had no system.
The problem is a lot of people have the skills, but it comes down to
no system.
It comes down to the fear of you have to, and I coach my team on, you have to be willing to fail. You have to.
Not only willing, but try.
Yes, and you have to be okay with
Go
it.
for the no.
Yes, and
go for the no.
And you have to be fine with that.
And my dad would be like, "Oh, that's a $10,000 job. I'm gonna write 9995."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, so I can get it.
Yeah.
Do you need it? Do like, I know you're not going to miss that $5, but do we need the $10,000 job right now? We're busy as hell. Why don't we make it 14? If we get it, then it's even worth it more.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that mentality.
Yeah.
Right? And why doesn't he have that mentality? Because he didn't want somebody to do that to him. It comes down to being not a dick, but in realistic aspects. He's trying to treat everybody the way he would like everybody to give him a deal. And that's just the way my dad was. He wanted deals. He liked deals. He raised me in a flea market, told me I could have $1 if I could find a hammer to buy for $0.25.
Yeah.
That's how he taught me to be.
Badass,
I was a 7-year-old wheeling dealer.
I love it. Yeah.
Looking for hammers for $0.25.
Yeah, offering fucking a dime for a fucking dollar hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me get that. And then I got $1. I can go get my ice cream.
Yeah.
But my dad went to the flea market because he loved to do the wheel and deal shit. And he was a great salesman. I mean, he was a scout leader too. He did 30 years in the Boy Scouts.
Wow. He
He had the most Eagle Boy Scouts in our entire troop area. Like out of all the 20 or 30 different troops in the area.
Leadership.
He had the most Eagle Scouts. And I unfortunately was not one.
Why is that?
I just had that mentality when I was a kid. I'm not going to do what my dad tells me to do.
Fucking too hard-headed, huh?
Totally, bro. Right? So I made it to star rank, and he became the scout leader, and I was like, nope. Not doing it.
It's
So-
always the fucking kids, the dad that has a kid, you
Right.
know, on the baseball team. The
He's
dad
a little
that's the coach.
dick.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I didn't want to be that little dick. I
Yeah.
didn't want to be the pitcher when I
Yeah.
sucked at being a pitcher.
Exactly, because your fucking dad's
Dad's
a
a
scout leader.
coach.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
So no, I ain't doing that.
you're fucking making the campfire and
Right.
you can't fucking light the fucking fire and you're out there fucking trying to
No,
light
exactly. I was, and that's the thing. Like I was, like what I do now. Like one of my businesses is being an outdoor. Like I showed you my.
it. Yeah, the guy. Yeah.
I'm an outdoor guide. I do tours and off-road events and stuff like that. And that's one of my, hobbies turning business now. It's becoming pretty successful. So, but that comes from my dad. Just that's the way he was, And so I learned how to network from my dad. I learned how to sell from my dad. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking all the skills that I had, and even though I was successful when I was your age, I lost it all because I didn't have systems. And so, I'm hoping that out of the relationship you and I have had, and been able to put together, that I'm able to help bring to you some knowledge, some systems that make you feel like, okay, I need to explore this way.
You definitely, and I can't thank you enough, Tommy. And I'm serious, and I want to shake your hand and tell you I really appreciate you. And at the end of the day, it's really learning and understanding that I don't know everything, and I'll be the first guy to tell you I got a long way to go. Like I really do. And I think it starts with networking. It starts meeting guys like you with 30, 20, 30, 15, however much experience you have, and just being able to listen, be a free thinker and understand, what areas I can improve and doubling down on those areas. Right. And I think systems, we can all get better at it. I tell my team all the time, I said, if you go fucking work at McDonald's, guess what happens? They hand you a book and they say, hey, Tommy, you're our new fry cook. And every single question you can think of is in that book.
Right.
They have it down, systemized so much that they're able to cross, the whole world. And translate it in many different languages and talk about scale, right? That's a scalable system, and we can get into all the different aspects about that. But I try to take the McDonald's playbook, right? Of I want to be able to have someone join my organization or get involved with us and, JV on a deal with us or however they want to get involved. And we have a book, we have a thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a book, but I'm just saying something to hand them and say, hey, this is going to set you up for success.
Right.
And let's talk. So I appreciate you coming out today, Tommy. Appreciate you telling your story and giving your expertise here to our audience. And if you guys have, got some value, I'm sure you guys have, make sure you guys go follow the Millionaire Maker, TikTok, Instagram, Tommy Dee on Facebook. What's your last name, Tommy?
Last name is Dobzik. It's a really interesting Irish name spelled by a Polak. So
is it spelled out all the way on Facebook?
No,
is it, okay.
I just go by D most of the time.
D,
but
okay.
It is a tricky name to spell.
So Tommy Dee, if you guys want to catch up with Tommy on Facebook, and then Millionaire Maker on Instagram and TikTok.
Actually, it's Tommy Dee on Instagram too.
Is it Tommy Dee? Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
So
perfect. Well,
I'm still working on branding all my different social medias.
No, you're fine.
So,
you still got AOL guys.
AOL,
cut
right.
them some slack.
Right.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.